Hey, this is Miss Meller. I'm here participating in our virtual Spirit Week. I've got on my Mellow Monday pajamas and I am ready to do some at-home learning. So we are going to be looking at the Day 4 passage, Teeny Tiny Tardigrades. So go ahead and pause your video, get out your resources, so that way you're ready to read along with us. We're going to be looking at this passage, Teeny Tiny Tardigrades. And so I'm going to read it out loud and I want you to follow along, and then we're going to look at some of the questions and some of the strategies you need to answer the questions in a passage like this. So go ahead and follow along with me. It's called Teeny Tiny Tardigrades. What would you say if someone asked you to name Earth's toughest survivor? Camels can go a week without drinking. A cockroach can survive more radiation than a person. But there is a teeny tiny creature that can go without food or water for years. It is so small that it can be seen only under a microscope. Its real name is tardigrade. Most people call it a water bear. Surviving everything. Water bears look like soft, squishy bugs. People call them bears because they walk the way bears do. Most water bears are smaller than the period at the end of this sentence. Don't let their size fool you. They are found in places that would kill most living things. Some water bears survive in the boiling water found in hot springs. Others live miles below the ocean surface. They survive with tons of water pressing down on them. Not all water bears live in extreme places. They can be found in parks, forests, and gardens. They thrive in damp, woody areas where mosses and other plant life grow. Many feed by sucking juices out of plants. Others eat creatures that are smaller than they are. This photograph of a water bear was taken with a microscope. A microscope is a tool that lets you see tiny objects or creatures. Drying up. Water bears must have water to stay active. It helps them eat, move, and breathe. So what happens when the water around one of these tiny creatures dries up? First, it pulls in its 8 legs, then it curls its body into a barrel shape called a tun. It loses 99% of its water. Then every single life function of the water bear stops. When conditions get better, the water bear stretches its little legs and starts moving and eating again. Water bears can survive the extreme cold and radiation of outer space. Scientists sent some water bears into space as part of an unmanned mission. They came back fine. Not so long ago, most scientists believed life did not exist beyond Earth. Now many think it is possible. If water bears can survive a visit to outer space, who knows what other creatures might live there? Thousands of water bears spent more than a week in space before they were returned to Earth. And this is a look at the spaceship that they went to space in. So now we're going to look at the questions. So if we look at question 1, it says, which 2 questions can be answered by reading paragraph 2? I highlighted 2 questions and reading paragraph 2 because I know I'm going to choose 2 answer choices and I need to look back at paragraph 2. I find it by looking at the little numbers on the side of the paragraphs. So let's read paragraph 2. Water bears look like soft, squishy bugs. People call them bears because they walk the way bears do. Most water bears are smaller than the period at the end of this sentence. Don't let their size fool you. They are found in places that would kill most living things. So this tells me what water bears look like, why they're called water bears, and how small they are, as well as that they're found in places that would kill most living things. So now I'm ready to answer which 2 questions. How do water bears survive in extreme surroundings? Well, it tells me that they live in these extreme places, but it doesn't tell me how they survive. The next part, what do tardigrades look like? It tells me they look like soft, squishy bugs. So I can circle that one. What do water bears need to stay active? I find that out later in the passage. How and what do water bears eat? I also find this out later. How large are water bears? It told me in this paragraph that they are as small as the period at the end of the sentence, so I know that. And then F, why does a tardigrade need water? I'll also figure that out later in the passage. Remember, I was just looking for the 2 questions that could be answered from paragraph 2. So I have 1B, that they look like soft, squishy bugs, and 1E, that they're smaller than the period at the end of this sentence. If I look at question number 2, why are tardigrades called water bears, I can also find this information back in paragraph 2. It says here, most people call them bears because they walk the way bears do. So that's answer choice C. As you can see, I've marked my paragraphs a lot with underlining, so that way I know where I found the answers to each of these questions. If I look at number 3, it says, read the sentence from paragraph 4. Not all water bears live in extreme places. Based on how it is used in the passage, what does the word extreme mean? Use key details from the text in your response. So I look back at paragraph 4, and to find the meaning of an unknown word, I need to look at the sentences around it to understand the context of what it means. They are found in places that would kill most living things. So these are the places that would kill most living things. Some water bears survive in the boiling water found in hot springs. Others live miles below the ocean's surface. They survive with tons of water pressing down on them. So these are places that would kill most living things, places that are hard to live in. But then it says not all water bears live in extreme places. They can be found in parks, forests, and gardens. So these places are not extreme, parks, forests, and gardens. These are examples of places that anyone could live in. So I know that extreme must mean someplace that's difficult to live in. So it means that it's intense or very far beyond the normal, maybe even dangerous. And I support it with key details where the text states that water bears live in boiling water or under the ocean surface very deep, so that this tells me that these places are not normal places to live like parks or forests would be. Now if I look at question number 4, it says, based on details in the passage, what 3 types of places is this sentence talking about? They are found in places that would kill most living things. Well, we already talked about the boiling water of the hot springs and the deepest parts of the ocean. And we talked about how the woody areas and the parks and gardens are not extreme. Those are normal places to live. So then we just have to look at inside volcanoes. That wasn't mentioned in the article, but outer space was. If we look back right here on page 20, it says water bears can survive the extreme cold and radiation of outer space. So I underlined that and put 4F. Now if I look at number 5, it says, read these sentences from paragraph 5. Water bears must have water to stay active. It helps them eat, move, and breathe. Which question can be answered after reading these sentences? So just looking at these sentences, what question can I answer? How long can a water bear survive without water? Well, it doesn't tell me how long they can survive without it. What types of foods do water bears eat? It tells me it helps them eat, but it doesn't tell me what. Where do water bears get their water? It doesn't say where, it just says they must have it. And so then why is water so important to water bears? This is answered because it tells them they must have it to stay active, to eat, move, and breathe. Then part B says, which other sentence from the text also helps answer the question you chose in part A? So I'm looking for another supporting detail for this question of why water is so important. So A says, then every single life function of the water bear stops. And this sentence is found back where it talks about the need for water, right under here. So it's talking about how if it doesn't have water, it curls up, and then every single life function stops. So that means that a water bear without water can't do what it is supposed to do. So that supports my question of why it's important. When it talks about living in boiling water, or stretching its little legs when it has water, or going without food or water, those things are details about the tardigrades, but they are not supporting the question, why is water so important to water bears? One last thing I wanted to point out are these vocabulary words that we found in the passage. Radiation, survive, thrive, and function. I went ahead and highlighted them, and you can find them on your answer key highlighted as well. So to find the meaning of these words, you can read the sentence again, or you can look them up on a dictionary. So it says a cockroach can survive more radiation than a person. I know survive means to live, but I had to look up that radiation was small particles of a radioactive substance which can cause death. So if a cockroach can survive this, that means they're really tough. But then it tells us about tardigrades, who are even more tough little creatures. Then the word thrive is down here where it says they thrive in damp, woody areas. So that means they do really well. They like living there. And then last is function, the useful thing something is supposed to do. So it talks about how without water, every single function of the water bear stops. So it can't do what it's supposed to do if it doesn't have water. So as you can see, a great strategy for answering questions is going back to the text and finding where the sentence or the question is located, and then underlining where you find the answer, and also looking up unknown vocabulary words. I want you to keep practicing these strategies as you continue to read your passages, and keep looking out for videos on Google Classroom. Have a great day, guys.